Hola amigos, bien o no, y saludos desde Medellín. Hoy está lloviendo. So, en este tipo de clima, especialmente cuando está lloviendo, yo disfruté especialmente aquí en la tarde para leer algunos de mis libros favoritos. Y hoy estoy leyendo algo con este libro, René Descartes, Discourse on Method and the Meditations, muy famoso libro con 1637. Yo quiero compartir un poco de este libro con ustedes. Aquí en Discurso número 4 vamos a mirar el más famoso frase de señor Descartes, cogito ergo sum, or I think, therefore I am. So, today, because the weather's bad, and when it's raining a lot, I quite like to sit down and read in the evening, so I picked one of my favourite books. This happens to be one of them, The Discourse on Method and the Meditations by René Descartes. So I'm going to read you from Discourse number 4, from which we get the famous phrase cogito ergo sum, or I think, therefore I am. So I'll read you this little bit of it, give you something to listen to. Interesting thing here, similar to what we said a couple of videos ago about the translations of Cervantes, in many ways contemporary. This is 1637, Cervantes is around about a similar time, is how we translate from, well in this case would be Old French into English, or in Cervantes' case Spanish into more modern English. How we manage to do that, but we still keep there's a subtle difference in the way it's expressed. But I think in many ways that slight change in expression adds a bit more to the fact that it is a classic work. But see what you think. So, Discourse number 4. I do not know if I ought to tell you about the first meditations I pursued there, for they are so abstract and unusual that they will probably not be to the taste of everyone. And yet, so that one may judge if the foundations I have laid are firm enough, I find myself to some extent forced to speak of them. I had long ago noticed that in matters relating to conduct, one needs sometimes to follow, just as if they were absolutely indubitable, opinions one knows to be very unsure, as has been said above. But as I wanted to concentrate solely on the search for truth, I thought I ought to do just the opposite and reject as being absolutely false everything in which I could suppose the slightest reason for doubt, in order to see if there did not remain after that anything in my belief which was entirely indubitable. So, because our senses sometimes play us false, I decided to suppose that there was nothing at all which was such as they cause us to imagine it. And because there are men who make mistakes in reasoning, even with the simplest geometrical matters, and make paralogisms, judging that I was liable to error as anyone else, I rejected as being false all the reasonings I had hitherto accepted as proofs. And finally, considering that all the same thoughts that we have when we are awake can also come to us when we are asleep, without any one of them then being true, I resolved to pretend that nothing which had ever entered my mind was any more true than the illusions of my dreams. But immediately afterwards I became aware that while deciding thus to think that everything was false, it followed necessarily that I, who thought thus, must be something, and observing that this truth I think, therefore I am, was so certain and so evident that all the most extravagant suppositions of the skeptics were not capable of shaking it, I judged that I could accept it without scruple as the first principle of the philosophy I was seeking. So there we go. A short reading from that. Classic book from, look at it now, what's that, nearly 400 something years ago. So I hope you enjoy that one. Déjame saber en los comentarios, como siempre. But for now, from a rainy Medellin, we'll say cheerio.